Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be talking about the best tech champions to take up to rank 3, and tech is actually very hard one to make because there are more than 7 that would well then qualify. Before we go any further, obviously the mandatory disclaimer: these are my thoughts, my opinions, my views on the game. It will be significantly different based on our own player preferences, game modes we value, commitment levels, mastery setups we prefer, so on and so forth. So if I do not mention the champion that you're most excited to rank up, then, that's life. We all like and value and appreciate different things. And as I said, with tech class, it's actually hard. I could easily make it top 10 or past top 10. So first I want to kind of like point out a couple of things, champions, why I exclude them from this list. And that is going to start with Ironheart. Ironheart's very new. I personally find her to be all right, not awful, not amazing. I think she's solid. We'll see how she incorporates herself in the game. Dust is having a bit of a glow up. Ironheart, yet to be seen. Similarly to Prowler. Prowler arenas are happening right now. I am more optimistic about Prowler than I am about Ironheart for sure. But it's just I'm not confident. And also very, very few people will have that champion. Moving on, another champion that I think is kind of like preferential that nearly made the list, that a lot of people would probably rank up higher than I did, is Iron Man. He can do some cool things, but again, you do want him awakened, ideally relatively high sig. And I think he's an option for sure. He would be in spot number 8 in my video here, but somebody had to miss it. And therefore, we're gonna move on to the top 7 right now. And with that, we will take a look at Guardian. Now, I suppose you can interchange Guardian and Iron Man, even though Guardian does typically require high sig and whatnot. But I have seen a ton of rank 2 Guardians and even rank 3 that are, either sig 20 or unawakened, and he still puts in work. Yes, you do lose on the energy resistance and bleed resistance, which is quite big for him. But still, he just ends up matching extremely well, being a fairly annoying defender. The opponent doesn't have a way to get his armor up. And I do think he's a perfectly viable option that quite a lot of people have. Again, it's debatable which one you prefer, Iron Man or Guardian. For me personally, it happens to be Guardian in this case. A solid dual-purpose champion, in my opinion. All right, let's move on. Spot number 6, and spot number 6 is going to be Penny Parker, and I think she's kind of getting slept on. Obviously, when she got released in the contest, she was absolutely wrecking havoc on defense, and that's no longer the case at all due to an influx of incredibly powerful cosmic characters, like we have, Hulkling and Galen that absolutely nuke her, Gore does, and just a whole plethora of other cosmic champions now run over her. She can still be annoying and good defender, but she's not going to be a champion you automatically draft for defense and just throw it down on the field. However, I do think she's underrated offensively as well, making her a solid double threat. Now, when it comes to Penny, ideally you would want to have her duped, because then she gets a new party piece and destroys Nick Fury, and that matchup is incredibly important. But even unawakened, there is more than enough to love about her. In between her bursty level 2 ramp up, in between her immunities, in between her fail safes, especially super important now when you can just get saved when you would miss an intercept. And as a tech champion, I think she's getting, already kind of slept on at this point. Next up, Hulkbuster, I think one of the more underrated power control champions in the game, because in between his level 2 loop and then spamming heavy attacks and getting back up to next level 2, you can pretty much shut down a ton of opponents from using special attacks, and his damage can be great. Now, obviously, there are some issues with stand your ground mastery, so you can't do that in Alliance War and Battlegrounds, just spamming your heavy attacks as freely as you otherwise would. But still, access to shock, access to power control, access to armor break, perfectly viable unawakened as well. But when awakened, he does get some regeneration as well. He actually does have somewhat potent ability accuracy reduction as well, that will not be something that you necessarily focus on, but they will still have reduced ability accuracy as well. And obviously, need be, you can throw him on defense, and at times he can mess people up due to the fact that he will place shock on the opponents, especially if there are any damage multipliers. But overall, I do think Hulkbuster is kind of slept on. Actually, one of my most wanted pulls from that incursion crystal, I want to say. Yes. Next champion, I have to talk about is Shocker. Now, Shocker would have quite possibly made higher to the list, but with the changes to the glancing mechanic and therefore also the matchups that Shocker takes, also the way he works with armor champions now, well, I'm not entirely sure. Like a week ago, a month ago, I would probably put Shocker as in spot number 1 or 2. At the moment, I do think we need think about it. I do think he's still gonna be great. That's why he's on this list. Like, if I was of an opinion that, he's going to be bad and nobody's going to play him anymore, I wouldn't put him on this list. I still think he's going to be a tremendously useful champion. Just not going to be as useful as he used to be. But, bringing somebody down from 100 to 95, he's still going to be better than, 94% of the other champions in the game, for instance. It is kind of sucky, the situation that happened with Shocker. It is kind of annoying. But it's still perfectly viable candidate, in my opinion. Still tremendously annoying defender at times with his reduced stun duration, with his auto blocks, with him going unblockable, and obviously specials. And all of that stuff is, working in his favor on defense. And then offensively, he can still do quite a lot of annoying matchups. Now, moving on. Spot number 3, and that's where I'm going to put in Warlock at the moment. Warlock is seemingly like immortal, like forever. Warlock just keeps being good and important. In between his power control, obviously access to bleed, access to shock, access to armor breaks, access to degen if he's awakened. Shocker, by the way, is perfectly viable unawakened, and so is Warlock in my opinion. Obviously better if you do have him awakened, because then he becomes even more annoying defender as well. He can also be, in general, quite troublesome foe on defense. In general, especially opponents can't get rid of the armor up. And, he's one of those defenders where you kind of need to know when to place him, similar to Penny now. But he can definitely win rounds on defense as well. And he's one of the more versatile champions in a game. Not just looking at battlegrounds, he's like super useful still in Alliance War almost every season. Still super useful in questing situations or some challenge modes. He's just one of those champions that often fits the bill and does a ton of fights you wouldn't necessarily immediately think of doing with him. Spot number 2, we need to go back to the game, because I'm giving spot number 2 to Red Skull. I don't think I can say enough good things about the guy. He's one of my most wanted 7-stars right now. And I'm super annoyed that I can't pull him as a 7-star, so I'm probably going to send my 6-star very, very soon, because he's been putting in work. Red Skull is crazy good defender now. He's obviously very good domino counter, also like perfectly adequate offensively. You can do a ton of random matches with him as well. He's quite safe after special attacks. He either gets unstoppable or auto block that can let you get out of trouble. You have crit rate reduction, basically crit resistance on him. Have tons of armor ups, tons of armor rating. He's chunky. He has plenty of power control, access to shock, access to burst damage, access to heal block. I just love the guy. I think he's very, very, very good. One of the favorite things about Red Skull that I have is like not every Cosmic Champion actually can run over him as well due to all of those qualities and the fact that you can't hit his block, for instance. He can be like sneakily adequate against Hulklings in most cases, and he's just one of those champions that you often feel very, very secure drafting as a total powerhouse of a defender. Obviously, as a tech champion, having immunity to nullify also is absolutely huge. Well, it's not necessarily immunity to nullify for everything, but immunity to nullify fatal and stagger effects from champions. So it doesn't work against nodes, but against champions. Well, obviously against mutants, ability actually cannot be modified, making him great domino counter. And in general, absolutely love Red Skull, would and do place him as the second best option. And then it's Shuri. Shuri is, I think, still the queen bee. Still a very solid defender, still a very solid attacker, answer to Atuma, answer to Domino, answer to plenty of matchups you wouldn't necessarily think of her being capable of doing extremely well. Like Warlock, for instance, just because she doesn't make contact, so she doesn't get the infection charges. I think her value has dropped slightly, but overall, in the entire game, you cannot discount her power. On Alliance War defense, on Alliance War attack, one of the best Necropolis champions. Great for questing, great for longer fights. Ramps up fast enough now, to do more simple quest style fights as well. Obviously, great presence in battlegrounds. She has kind of replaced Nimrod, I think, towards the top of tech class. And finally, there's one champion that I want to mention. I did not know where to place or how to address this exactly, and a lot of people pointed out before. And that is Starkhand SpiderMan. Starkhand SpiderMan, I think, is a perfectly viable choice if that is who you chose from the Korean challenges, or if you plan on doing these in the first place. I do think that in order for Starkhand SpiderMan, Shuri does not need to be awakened, by the way, but Starkey kind of does. I do think if you chose Starkhand SpiderMan twice from the Korean challenge selectors, then you probably don't need me or anybody else to tell you that he's a legitimate rank up option. At the same time, nobody else will have this champion, or at the very least awakened, unless you already kind of knew that you really want the guy. So, a similar situation with Massacre. I think Massacre in skill class was a perfectly legitimate rank up option, but you are either very capable endgame player who did all of the Korean challenges and selected Massacre right, and then you know that you want to rank him up. Same Starkey here. You just don't randomly pull Starkey. You go, you earn, and you choose this champion. And if you did that, well, yeah, okay, rank him up, right? That's why I didn't talk about Starkhand SpiderMan before. But that is it about today's video. I have to go do some important business stuff, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information